I want to ask you about the business climate right now. When we were together in Davos a couple of years ago, you said to me, China's red-hot real estate market has turned cold.
Right.
As the CEO of the largest office developments company in Beijing and Shanghai, you have a first-hand look into Chinese real estate. What can you tell us?
Well, I think the urbanization, which is driving the real estate development in China, is still continuing. So for that, the demand for apartment buildings is still strong. But also much of the Chinese cities have been built for, like if you go to Beijing and Shanghai today, you will see central business district, what we call CBDs, are all built. So for that, I think there are enough office buildings. So we rent office building mainly, day in, day out. That economy has slowed down somewhat from the peak a few years ago to now. It's in a slower growth, close to 7% GDP growth. So we're seeing buildings are still fully occupied, but its rent is not growing as much as, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's what you said just recently. I was reading an article that you were quoted, and you said, look, much of the development has been done.
Yes.
So where's the growth then, for example, at SOHO China,
right,
when you see what has already been done?
Right. Well, this is it. The intense high growth time is probably past. That's when China was growing at GDP level, growing at 14%, at the company level growing double-digit every year. But now we're at the slower growth time, which is, the GDP is growing at 7%, and companies are growing less. But I think still, obviously, compared to any rest parts of the world, it's still a higher growth economy. Compared to our own past, it's a slower growth.
Would you be more poised to invest more right now in China or the United States? I know you also have investments here in the U.S. You acquired a big stake in the GM building, for example, here in New York. And Chinese investors are looking to get into the real estate market here. China's foreign direct investment in the U.S. hit a record high, $45.8 billion in 2016. What's your take on the U.S. right now?
I think from the real estate point of view, I look at the assets. It's not cheap anymore, and this is probably, high point of the market, if not the peak of the market. So in terms of investment, this is not the best time to buy. But if you own something in the U.S., this is perfect. Your asset price are showing the highest.
Yeah. Let me turn to your story, Zhang, because Forbes ranked you 10th on its 2017 list of richest self-made women in the world.
Oh, did you see that?
With an estimated worth of $3.2 billion. And your story is just phenomenal. You grew up during the Cultural Revolution under Mao. How did that happen? How were you as a child, in some cases poverty-stricken, and then you become one of the richest women in the world in China?
Well, we grew up with nothing. Cultural Revolution, it was a socialist state. Nobody had anything. We hardly had enough food to eat. And then China opened the door 30 years ago. So then opportunity came. And people like myself had the opportunity to do business. And because China had no business before, and all the business happened in the last 20, 30 years, so it was like a great opportunity to anyone who wants to build business. So I am just lucky in the right place and the right time in history.
I don't believe it was the right place and the right time. You also had incredible encouragement from your mother. I know that.
Oh, thank you.
It's really extraordinary when I think about the fact that so many women have been able to rise to billionaire status in China. How is it possible that it's almost easier to get that kind of stature in China than it is in even America? How did you do it?
Well, I think in America you have such a well-established industries. It's hard for any startup and someone who come in new to build anything. That's why you see more, newer billionaires and successful business people in the tech industry, because that's less established as in New York, for instance. China is like the whole country's a startup. So everyone who wanted to come into business had no competitor before, and everything is fresh. And that was 20 years ago, because today it's different. Today companies and industries are already established. So I think the opportunities lies in the new industries, still technology, still areas that are less established. But for instance, in real estate, it's harder today than 20 years ago.
It's harder in China.
Harder.
Why is that?
Just because companies established, industry established, and opportunities largely gone, and you need to just work so hard, so much harder to get opportunities.
You're going to be speaking at the Women in the World conference today at Lincoln Center. You and I will both be there together.
Well, thank you for moderating.
I'm looking forward to that. Why go to a forum like this? Tell us what you're expecting to hear, what we should expect at this Women in the World conference today.
I love this because I think this, I know Tina Brown's Women in the World conference, she has this mixture of amazing women from business world, politics, from NGOs, from some refugees, and some people, just all amazing stories of women. And I didn't used to think so much about women's conference. I used to think that women's conference only for women, and we should be heard by men, not just by women. But then, you know, having been to quite a few of these events, that I realized that there is an incredible solidarity among the women, and just hearing the amazing stories it's invigorating. And
yours is incredibly empowering, your story. By the way, as a real estate titan that you are, have you actually worked with Donald Trump, who of course is a real estate titan of his own before becoming President Trump?
I have not.
You have not worked with him in any deals. Do you expect a lot of deals to trigger this year in the U.S. as a result of the valuations that you're seeing, or are things just too expensive?
I think things are too expensive to really see a lot of deals, although I continue to see Chinese closing deals here at the peak of the price.
Look at the Waldorf Astoria.
I know.
Yeah, just acquired. Zhang, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great.
And I will see you later in this morning at Women in the World conference.
Looking forward to that.
Zhang joining us.